Evening, we need a motion to convene in closed session. Moved by Councillor Gordick, Councillor Gerber, all in favor? Okay. And it's understood that the CAO and acting deputy clerk will be withdrawing the closed meeting agenda items. So I'll ask for a mover and a seconder to recess council. A move by Councillor Hallman, Councillor Fenning. All in favor? We are now in recess until 7 o'clock. Everybody now relax.
See you.
Good evening, everyone. We will begin with a motion to reconvene open meeting. As the CAO Acting Deputy Clerk to read the recommendation, please.
That council reconvene in open session at 7 p.m.
Thank you. Mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Hallman, second by Councillor Fenning. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. So before we begin tonight's meeting, let us take a moment to recognize that May 18th is International Museum Day. This year's theme is the power of museums. Museums bring positive change to communities and are a vital component of tourism across Ontario. May is Museum Month, which is celebrated annually by Ontario's 700 plus museums, galleries, and heritage sites. This month is an opportunity to celebrate the contributions of museums to their communities, including Castle Kilbride National Historic Site and the Wilmot Heritage Fire Brigades Museum, both located in Baden. I invite you to visit or revisit these museums to take in their exhibits, or participate in upcoming special events. Show your appreciation and support by visiting your local museum. I would now ask Councillor Gordick to read the Territorial Acknowledgement, please.
Good evening. We have gathered in Wilmot Township on the traditional territory of the Neutral, Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Mississauga peoples. We also want to acknowledge the importance of the Dish with One Spoon Covenant, a peace agreement made between Indigenous nations before the Europeans arrived. It characterizes our collective responsibility to each other and Mother Earth. We should take only what we need, leave enough for others, and keep the dish clean. By acknowledging this covenant and the First Nations, Inuit and Métis people, we are reminded of our important connection to this land where we live, learn, and work together as a community.
Thank you. There are no additions to the agenda. Adoption of the agenda. I'll ask the CAO Deputy Clerk to read the recommendation, please.
That the agenda as presented for May 16th, 2022 be adopted.
Thank you. Mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Gordick, second by Councillor Fisher. All in favor? Thank you. That is carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? Seeing none. So the minutes from previous meetings. The minutes of April 25th, May 9, and May 16 will be brought forward for council to approval at our council meeting on May 30th, 2022. There are no public meetings, and we have a presentation this evening. And I will ask CEO Sharon Chambers to introduce our guest for this evening presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. As Council's aware, the Township has engaged Whitesell & Company to conduct an organizational review and people plan. The project was launched to the corporate leadership team on April 12th, and John Whitesell is here this evening to provide an overview and project update to Council. With that, I would like to welcome John and invite him to introduce himself and begin his presentation.
Welcome, John.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here this evening, and I would like to provide you with an overview of a project that we started in mid-April, the Organizational Structure Review and People Plan. My name is John Whitesell. I head up a group of 7 consultants from downtown Toronto. We're just starting to get back to our offices now after the pandemic. Many of the consultants have decided to work in a hybrid structure, a couple of days from their home offices, as well as going downtown for 3 days. So we're still trying to adjust to the post-pandemic world, what we hope is a post-pandemic world. Next slide, please. The Wilmot Organizational Structure Review and People Plan started in mid-April, as I said. The 5-month project will be largely involved with looking at the various systems, interviewing the people, trying to better understand how Wilmot fits into the region, and to try to establish a better way of doing things that is more efficient, more effective for the future. Next slide, please. Breaking the project into 2 pieces, the organizational structure review, the purpose is to assess the existing processes, practices, staffing, and organization structure to identify opportunities for improvement that will optimize service delivery and modernization opportunities while making the best use of resources. Next slide. The purpose of the people plan component of the project is to identify options and develop a people plan that will ensure efficiency and effectiveness in meeting both current and anticipated service delivery requirements, and to provide for implementation of strategic priorities. At this point in time, we are pointing directly at the strategic plan that was recently developed by the corporate leadership team. We do expect that we will be making some adjustments so that we can be in sync with that strategy, and we can continue into the future for the next 5 years or so. Next slide. The project is divided up into 4 phases. Phase 1, which we're in right now, is the project launch and situation analysis. We started in mid-April, and we expect to work through to about mid-June. Currently, we're at 62% completion of phase 1 due to the cooperation of the staff for scheduling interviews with us. Julie, the CAO's executive assistant, has been just incredible in helping us to arrange all of the interviews and keep everybody on track and on time. Phase 2 of the project is going to take most of June. It's an external environment scan. And what we are going to do is look at 5 to 7 other municipalities as comparatives for Wilmot to determine not just best practices, but what they are doing as they look towards the future and what changes they're making to their organizational structures and people plan. Phase 3 of the project will be July and August, and that's a review and evaluation of all of the information that we've gathered during the previous 3 months. We're also including an extensive document review. This includes everything that's available to the public, such as the financial information reports, strategic plan, official plan, regional documents, and so on. But it's also documentation that has been generated by the departments within the township itself. And we're in the process of gathering that information now. We're using 2 different systems to track the project. One is an online system called Smartsheet, which is a Gantt project tool. Specifically, what we're trying to do is make sure that the project stays on track because of the compressed time frame. We're also using a communication tool called Slack, which helps us in real time to understand what we need to do, who needs to do it, and when it should be done. Phase 4 of the project will be most of September, and this is the writing of the people plan and the final report for the corporate leadership team to review, to edit, and approve prior to the presentation to council, hopefully in September, at the very latest in early October. So those are the project phases. Any questions at all from the mayor or council?
Councillor Hallman.
Yes.
Just wanted to say thank you, not so much of a question, just a comment through the mayor, sorry. Just wanted to say thank you for this and looking forward to this project unfolding.
Thank you, Councillor.
Councillor Gordick.
Through you, Mayor. I'm just curious, just because I know you have a little bit more, Dr. Whitesell, just more along the idea, when you say that there's comparables that you would use for other municipalities, would that be also including some areas, like we're close to North Dumfries, but we may not have the same, because some of that might also be actually where we actually are versus, say, if you went to a comparable place that's up north, but because the staff component is the same, those could have a little bit of a different impact. Could you talk a little bit about that?
I sure can. Thank you, Councillor. We've worked with the townships around you as well. So, for instance, Wellesley Township, we completed an organizational review there last year. We've also worked in Puslinch, so we have a good idea of what is surrounding you. I think in the final analysis, it'll actually be two different tiers of comparatives, that there will be the local environment, and then there will be the environment beyond the regional area. So we're going to get a good sense of exactly where a township of your size can grow, both in terms of service delivery and in terms of the demographics that are projected for the township in the next 10 years. So yes, there will be examples from the local area as well. When it comes to, I should clarify, when it comes to best practices, we put a big qualifier on that. A best practice is what's best for that individual township. Or, you know, higher level municipality. These generally have been developed over time. Whether or not they are applicable to the Township of Wilmot is something that we will analyze, so that we don't just adopt something that we hope will work. It has to fit. So does that answer your question? Okay, thank you. All right, next slide, please. This is a proprietary model that we've developed to illustrate an organization, especially one that's experiencing a structural review and of course, a realignment of the people resources. The large arrow would represent the Township of Wilmot. And as you can see, mission and values is on the very top of the arrow. It is compressed with the strategy. So the strategy and mission and values keep all of the activities of the township, the values, the processes, everything that concerns the township within bounds. Those are the boundaries. The thing that we're trying to aspire to, of course, is operational effectiveness at all times. When these arrows, which are the stakeholders, are out of sync, you'll see a situation on your left with the various arrows almost in competition with each other. They're wasting energy. They're probably off purpose overall. And so our intent is to align all of those arrows towards operational effectiveness and in the end towards the vision of the township for the long-term future. Oftentimes, the way that we compare this is that when the arrows are in conflict, it's very difficult to tell which way is up when you're a staff member. You're trying to better understand how your time and energy can be best utilized, but you're not getting the direction that you need to be able to align yourself to your job, to your departmental priorities, and the overall priorities of the township itself. Any questions about that model? All right, next slide, please. What we're engaged with is strategic change. The CAO, the CLT, and definitely the mayor and council have approved this project so that we can go forward and better understand what the future has to offer for the public and, in fact, for the region itself. The thing is that the metaphor of a caterpillar transforming itself into a butterfly may be romantic, but the experience is a highly unpleasant one for the caterpillar. In the process, it goes blind, its legs fall off, and its body is torn apart to allow the beautiful wings to emerge. I'm not trying to frighten anybody, but this is going to be a rocky road. We are going to ask people to align themselves towards the change that has been agreed upon. This is going to involve changing habits. It's going to involve adopting new tools. It's going to involve working better together. One thing I will say, and I want to stress this, is that the interviews that we've done so far with the staff and the CLT and other people have indicated that there's a willingness for change that is very high in the township, that people understand that the way things have been is not going to be the way that they're going to be in the future. Our associate Jackie Turner, who has been conducting the staff interviews, has reinforced the fact in her trend analysis so far that people are really happy with the changes that have been made at the top of the house. That in fact, even after the recent changes that you've experienced, the staff have responded positively to that. So I wanted to let you know that your decision was a good one, that there is a way forward, but it will be a bumpy road and we'll be there to help you through it. This is what we do. We're good at what we do. We really enjoy what we do. And whatever we can do to help you, next slide, please. Please feel free to reach out directly to me or to Jackie Turner. We are the faces for the project. We have 3 other people in the background, but please feel free to text or write an email, call. Calling seems to be so old-fashioned these days, doesn't it? So however you want to reach out, we'll be there for you. So any questions at all?
Councillor Fenning.
More a comment than a question. I'm looking forward to engaging the process. I think from the community perspective, what I've heard over my time on council indicates that our community wants different things than it has wanted in the past. And, you know, that evolving demand from us as an organization, as a township, even as councillors, means that we need to figure out how to adapt and grow and learn and meet those needs. So I'm looking forward to seeing this project through and working with you.
Thank you, Councillor. I appreciate that.
Seeing no other hands, I too wish to thank you, John, and I do look forward to the results. I think it's an exciting time for us to really get moving ahead and being prepared for the future. So thank you very much. We appreciate your help, sir.
Thank you very much, Mayor. And any other questions? All right. Well, thank you and good night.
Thanks again, John. Take care. Enjoy your evening.
I shall. Bye now.
So the next item is the consent agenda. So we'll now move into the consent agenda. If members of council have any questions and want to remove an item from the consent agenda, please indicate so now, as we will not take questions on consent items unless the items are requested to be moved to the regular agenda. Okay, seeing that, I would ask now that the CEO read the recommendation, please.
That the recommendations for consent items 11.1 to 11.5 be approved.
And that is moved by Councillor Gordick, seconded by Councillor Fenning. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. Following is the reports. Okay, first one is the request for covering rental fees and insurance. Ms. Chambers.
Thank you, Mayor. This report asks Council to consider a request from the Community Safety and Crime Prevention Committee to cover facility rental and insurance fees for an upcoming bike safety event. This committee has recently been formed and at a recent meeting decided to host a bike safety event for youth ages 4 to 12 on May 29th, 2022 from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. There was no work plan or event schedule adopted at the time of preparing or considering the 2022 budget for this committee. Therefore, there are no dedicated funds for the committee's initiatives. And as such, this report is seeking approval to fund $280 of event costs from the council special events budget.
Thank you. Any comments or questions on that? Okay, thank you. So I'll ask that the CEO read the recommendation, please.
That report ILS 2022-17 be received for information, and further that the rental fees and insurance premiums for the Community Safety and Crime Prevention Engagement Committee's bike safety event on May 29th, 2022 from 1 to 4 p.m. at the Wilmot Recreation Complex arena floor be funded from the council special events budget.
Okay, thank you. I have a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Fenning, seconded by Councillor Hallman. All in favor? Thank you. That is carried. Okay, the next item is a draft plan of condominium. And Mr. Martin, will you introduce the report, please?
Thank you, Mayor Armstrong. This application deals with title separation of an existing light industrial building that's well under construction on Arnold Street. The condominium plan would allow each of the 3 units and associated parking to be conveyed separately in ownership with joint common ownership of the stormwater management facilities, parking, and areas surrounding the building. The application has gone through a site plan approval process. All matters related to the development are secured through a letter of credit to ensure that completion is in accordance with the approvals. And ultimately, easements and other matters respecting this development are would be secured through a condominium declaration to ensure continued access and maintenance of stormwater and infrastructures on site. So this application recommends approval of the application, and should council adopt the approval, a recommendation for draft plan approval rather would be forwarded to the Region of Waterloo for final approval.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from council? Councillor Hallman.
Thanks for the mayor. Mr. Martin, can you comment on point 6? It's just more of a curiosity question. What happens to the funds that we're requesting for parkland dedication? Where does that go?
That goes into the Parkland Reserve Fund. So ultimately, I may not have the exact name right. Pretty close. Mr. Kelly's here if I have the account name wrong, but ultimately any fees that are collected from Parkland through development applications would go into that reserve fund.
Okay, and then so how does that look like going forward? Like, is that something that we collect immediately?
It would be collected as a condition of approval. So ultimately prior to registration. So it's one of the clearances in order to register. They would have to provide that amount to the township. So depending on their timing of registration, I can't answer that for sure, but that's when it's collected.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Gordick.
Thank you through the mayor. This is for me is a sort of a curious question. Does this happen often with light industrial buildings, that part ownership happens as opposed to just like one owner renting out? And from just kind of wondering how that works if we've had other buildings that have done something similar.
Through Mayor Armstrong, in my 21 years, this would be the first time that we've dealt with it. Certainly residential ownership condominium, but the same provisions do allow for it to occur with industrial ownership as well. But this would be the, certainly isn't the first time throughout the region, but first time within Wilmot Township that I've been involved in.
So follow up then through you, Mayor. Not wanting to sort of sound negative, is there any potential negative impact of doing something like this for the township with regards to if we have separate ownership of a single building, maybe just repair or problems with the stormwater? What are the implications from having separate owners, if there are any, and if you've heard of any, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, through your Mayor Armstrong. So the purpose of both the site plan agreement and the condominium declaration are to protect the municipal interests, or at least our comment into that declaration. There's other matters in the declaration that deal with the individual needs, but ultimately ensuring that stormwater management facilities are maintained, that we have the ability to access, to read water meters, to name a few. The condominium declaration also includes a fee structure where they contribute to the costs of ongoing maintenance to ensure that it doesn't fall upon one person, that they ultimately are putting money into a fund. So when infrastructure on site reaches its end of life, that they have the finances to replace it. So I think there's enough level of protection through this process to certainly protect the municipal interests, and the Condominium Act is set up to protect the individual owners as well.
Thank you. I'll ask for a mover and a seconder. First, we'll have the recommendation read by the CAO, please.
That draft plan of condominium application 30 CDM-22601, Dixie Developments Incorporated, be recommended to the Regional Municipality of Waterloo for draft approval subject to the following conditions. 1, that this approval applies to draft plan of condominium 30 CDM-22601, prepared by Gunther Rube Surveying Limited, and with a surveyor's certificate of January 10th, 2022. 2, that the condominium declaration shall include the following. A, that the owner shall grant any additional easements or rights of access required for utility or municipal services purposes to the satisfaction of the Director of Public Works and Engineering. B, the owner acknowledges and agrees that the property shall contain one township-owned water meter for metering billing purposes by the township to the owner. Secondary meters may be purchased for sub-metering individual units. The purchase, installation, maintenance, and billing through the secondary meters is the responsibility of the owner. C, the owner acknowledges and agrees to ensure that the minimum designed liquid retention volume of the on-site stormwater management system is maintained at all times, and to inspect the facility at least once in the spring and once in the fall each year, and as per manufacturer recommendations, and if necessary, clean and maintain the facility to prevent excessive buildup of sediments and/or vegetation. 3, that prior to or concurrent with the registration of the plan, the owner shall pay to the Township of Wilmot a parkland dedication fee of $3,100.
Thank you. That is moved by Councillor Fisher, Councillor Fenning. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. We have, next item is under 15 Canadian National Softball Tournament. Ms. Jackson.
Thank you, Mayor Armstrong. So the Wilmot Softball Association has been awarded the hosting rights for the 2022.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. So the Wilmot Softball Association has been awarded the hosting rights for the 2022 Under 15 Canadian National Championship Tournament. And this is a holdover event from 2021 when the event was canceled due to the pandemic. The association is seeking sponsorship from local businesses within the community and will be charging a gate fee to help offset expenses. This report requests additional support from the township for expenses related to the tournament for the cost of renting the fields and the New Hamburg Community Center for their banquet at the end of the tournament. And these costs run approximately $6,700. The request in the letter to council attached in the appendix is to support this full amount in a partnership with their organization. However, waiving fees for a tournament of any level sets a precedent that could result in many more similar requests. This is also an event that is sure to draw tourists. Therefore, staff felt it best fit with the economic development budget. And this report outlines that there is $1,000 available from that budget to support this event and the costs associated. Parks and Rec staff are excited to have a national event occurring in our parks, and we wish the Wilmot Softball Association all the best with the tournament. And Mr. Okrafka is here to speak to the economic development budget, and Mr. Kelly is here as well if there's any other questions related to funding. Thank you very much.
Mr. Okrafka, you have a comment?
I don't have a specific comment, but I'd be happy to answer any questions. Again, we tend to try to support these types of events as one-offs. We do have some sports sponsorships on an annual basis, such as the Firebirds and the Wilmot Wild, where it's a junior level and representative of the municipality across the province that we sponsor as well. I can tell you that the $1,000 towards this tournament would exceed what we would annually sponsor the Wilmot Wild or the New Hamburg Firebirds amount. So it is, from a budget perspective, in terms of economic development, a fairly sizable amount of the budget.
Okay, thank you. I will have Ms. Chambers read the recommendation, please.
That report PFRS 2022-019 be received for information purposes, and that the township support the upcoming Under-15 Canadian National Championship Softball Tournament through sponsorship of $1,000 from the Economic Development Operating Budget, that in-kind support for marketing and promotions as well as event planning be provided to the organizing committee.
Thank you. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Gerber, seconded by Councillor Gordick. And Councillor Fenning, you have a comment or question?
I do. Sensitive to the idea of creating a precedent without parameters around it. But I think that for me, it makes sense, given that this is a national event, national competition. There are teams coming from across the country, and that level of exposure for our community, the ability to showcase what an amazing community we have. And so I think that you know, it does make sense in this particular case.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hallman.
Thank you, through the mayor. Piggybacking on kind of what Councillor Fenning is saying there, I agree with that. I do feel that this is a national stage. This is different than our, you know, other requests that we get. So with speaking of setting a precedence, I think that this is different. And I see that this is, we haven't had many opportunities, especially in the last couple of years, to really support economic development in this way. If we look at the average ball team, we have, you know, 8 to 12 kids. And if we're representing every province, we're looking at 800 to 1,000 youth just alone participating. And then if we look at the families they're drawing, if there's, I don't know how many teams per province there might be, but we're looking at plus their families. And while, you know, we can't host necessarily with accommodations, I'm assuming they're going to buy their groceries if they're staying at, you know, bringing their trailers, or if they're staying at nearby accommodations. This is really an opportunity to showcase our community. And I'd be interested in asking if there are other ways that we can look at this financially this year. So I'm wondering if maybe Mr. Kelly can comment on, are there other ways through if maybe this year we don't participate in financially in something else, that we can look at redirecting the funds to this. Are there any room for flexibility in that you can see?
Through Mayor Armstrong to Councillor Hallman. The township does have a municipal grants program that's published, advertised, promoted every year. We have an intake process towards that program. Through the budget process, council reviews and approves funding allocations to groups. An application was not submitted or brought forward by this specific group as part of the process. As such, the envelope of funding for municipal grants was capped around $50,000 again this year, which is our cap. That's what was included in the budget. We did, I feel, look at creative opportunities to fund the request. We looked to the economic development budget, which is a limited budget to support many aspects of economic development. As Mr. Okrafka did note, $1,000 is significantly more than we generally contribute to events, given the status of this event. And then the other piece I would just say is, as Ms. Jackson noted, there is in-kind support that's happening towards this event with staff time for the event planning with a lot of communication support. So it's a long way of saying, no, there's not something that you could pull out that we haven't already committed to funding, but we did find an avenue to at least support with the $1,000 that's proposed here.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm left reflecting on how we can increase that. I think at minimum even like 50%. So I know that would be looking for another 2,000 within the budget process. Is there a way that we can explore that? I'd be interested in trying to get, I feel like this is such a large opportunity that other things that we have done for economic development, this screams it from the rooftop. This shows the ROI. If we get more kids interested, youth interested in sports, that's more rental fees that will come down the path later. This is absolutely ROI for the business community, drawing in this kind of attention and the amount of people that will be visiting. I feel like we're not pulling our weight, that we could be doing more. And I know that you commented that they missed out on that opportunity, but I'm wondering if, as volunteers are spread so thin, if there was just somebody that didn't have anybody to fill out that application process. It's no fault of ours. It's just, or theirs. It's just an opportunity that was missed. I guess I'll maybe mute now and let Councillor Fenning, but I'd still like to see if there's a way that we can be creative and try to find something, as I definitely see that there's further ROI here in this.
Thank you. Councillor Fenning.
I'm, thinking about that request for an increase, and a couple things. If we're looking at this through an economic development lens, I think maybe, and I'll leave it, to staff to suggest if there is any possibility of where we can find funding to increase it. But I'd like to request a follow-up report from staff just on, numbers of attendance and impact to the community. How did it pan out? Again, going back to that idea of, if we're talking about this as setting a precedent, then, it'd be really good to have some data and some knowledge of how this impacted and whether this was successful and what was our return. Understanding, of course, that there are certain limitations that are going to be at play in how or what you can collect as far as data, but I think it should be possible to return to council with a report on the impact. And I would be interested in hearing if there is a way to increase that funding.
Thank you. Councillor Gerber.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mayor Armstrong. Just looking at some of the previous U15 national fastball championships. Although they are national fastball championships, they aren't necessarily an event that has representation from every province and territory. 5 provinces and territories were represented at the most recent pre-COVID event in 2019. 10 teams, 12 to 14 players a team, 120 players. It is a great event. It's not 1,000 players necessarily or anything quite that large. But certainly it does have an opportunity, certainly within the fastball world, which is big and across small town Canada, to raise the profile of Wilmot and to have some more people in the area. I move the motion. I would be open to a friendly amendment of raising the amount from the economic development budget to $1,500, and then getting that report afterwards, just as a way to sort of figure out, hey, when we get these in the future, what was the impact? Who was here? What do we know about where they stayed, or where they ate dinner? Did we see a rise in local businesses and the income that it brought in? So those are my thoughts on that.
Thank you. Ms. Jackson.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to follow up on some of the comments, I would agree with Councillor Gerber that the attendance is around the numbers where he indicated about 120 players. They are hoping for about 1,000 people attending the event over the course of the 4 days. So because it is a national event, you actually often get fewer spectators because they're watching it online if they aren't able to make the trip to Ontario, and the event will be fully streamed. So it is unique. It is, it's a bit of a risk for an organization to take on an event like this, but generally they're able to, hopefully they're able to recover their costs through gate and through sponsorships. I would be happy to bring a report back after, as suggested by Councillor Fenning and supported by Councillor Gerber, with as much information as I can glean from the organizing group as to where people stayed. I don't know whether there will be an economic survey done for this event, but I can certainly find that out. I don't know whether the region does that kind of thing, but we can certainly bring that back, and then we'll have better information if we have a future national event like this. Hope that helps a little bit.
Mr. Kelly.
I believe prior to discussing the friendly amendment, we'd need a mover and a seconder on that. Can you confirm that, Mayor Armstrong?
Yes, we will when we get to the point. A question I wanted to ask is the recommendation mentions in-kind support. Now, that is something that I understand that in-kind is something that is not charged to the group. It's just provided, and there is a value in that. Which have we determined any kind of value in that?
Through the mayor, we haven't put a dollar figure to that, but I could certainly try to put something together that would provide that information for council, after this evening. But generally, social media support from the municipality where the event is being hosted is quite a contribution, because that's where the locals will be looking to find out about the event, and it will be the locals that will likely be paying the most at the gate to support the event. So I would say it's a fairly substantial level of support for social media. And then, of course, I think my parks team has a pretty darn good reputation for supporting events around the township, and they will be there guns a-blazing, making sure everything is working out properly during the event and that all the needs are met. So I might even be scorekeeping and announcing, who knows? So yeah, I don't have an actual dollar figure, but I'm sure it would be in the several thousands of dollars.
Thank you. Councillor Fenning.
Thank you. Through the mayor, just occurs to me that if we want to encourage people who are coming from out of town to stay in Wilmot Township, it might be useful to provide the organization, and maybe you've already thought of this, but provide the organization with what accommodations do exist, from campgrounds and trailer sites to bed and breakfast and even Airbnbs. I don't know.
Through the mayor, if I can respond, that will likely be a major part of their planning. I haven't had that discussion personally, but having been involved in other major fastball tournaments, I can guarantee somebody on their committee is looking at accommodations, but I will definitely check that for sure.
Thank you. Councillor Hallman.
I can park mine until the CAO has her.
Okay,
I was just going to give some procedural advice, so I'll wait for the debate to unfold.
All right, then I shall go. Thank you, through the mayor. I would be interested in supporting Councillor Gerber's comment to increase that to 15 if Mr. Kelly can comment on where we would gather that from. And then second, I'm wondering about if we can discuss for this, perhaps some further ROI that maybe we can have Wilmot Township branding on the live stream to kind of accommodate the people looking and seeing our community from abroad. And yeah, I'll leave it at that.
If I can answer that through the mayor, I'll look into that as well, Councillor Holman. That could be something that we would have to purchase. However, I'm not really sure, but I would think sponsorship like that. But I will certainly check that. Thank you.
Councillor Fisher.
Through you, Mayor Armstrong. Question to the Director of Development Services. Could you give us an idea of how much of a budget you have for economic development and how much would be used already?
Through you, Mayor Armstrong, I believe the budget for 2022 is 10,000. I don't have it open in front of me, but 10,000. We raised it last year from the standard 5,000 for this budget cycle to recognize that we're coming out of a pandemic, and in particular, our small business and our agribusiness are looking for support. So there's, we participated obviously over the Christmas season in an event where we pretty much put in our time and effort. We didn't have a lot of money to contribute. And I think the business community in particular was expressing that they really wanted to see Wilmot have a larger budget for economic development activities to support local businesses. Certainly this will support local businesses to the extent that it's bringing people to town. And there's value, but this would be approximately 1/10 of the budget. And I think it's important to recognize that it's a very small pot of money for the entire year. And so from that perspective, I'm sure Mr. Kelly has an idea perhaps on where an alternative source for that extra 500 would be.
Go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Armstrong. Thank you, Mr. Krafka, and the original question from Councillor Holman. I think it would be the one place you could source it from or look to source it from would be similar to the bike safety event we just spoke about as an unbudgeted item within the council special events budget. I'll advise you that the council special events budget is $1,400. So with the already unbudgeted expense for the bike safety event and plus the addition to this one, it's starting to reach towards the top of that budget line, albeit a small budget. There are other community events, the Canada Day celebrations, Living Well Festival that are generally funded through that budget. So we could treat it as an unbudgeted expense, but again, that's subject to council's approval of the friendly amendment.
Ms. Chambers.
Yes, if council is in support of the friendly amendment to increase the sponsorship to 1,500, the motion could be amended as such, and also that it would be from the economic development and operating budget and the council special event budget. And the friendly amendment would just require the consent of the mover and seconder without the requirement for an amending motion. And so I have the mover as Councillor Gerber and the seconder as Councillor Gordick. If with their permission, we could make that friendly amendment.
Councillor Gordick.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Armstrong, to CEO Chambers. Also, there had been a recommendation with regards to the report. Would that be also part of the friendly amendment as well for a follow-up report from economic development or parks for afterwards? Is that part? Will that be part and parcel of that amendment? Just to confirm before I say yes.
If the mover and seconder so approve.
Thank you.
Looks like that's a yes.
So I would suggest that that would indicate that staff be directed to report back on the attendance and economic impact of the event.
Very good. So we have mover and a seconder. And on the amended recommendation, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Next item is the correspondence. And I would ask the CAO to read the recommendation, please.
That correspondence items 13.1 to 13.3 be received for information.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Fanning, second by Councillor Gordick. All in favor? Oh, hang on. Councillor Fanning.
Sorry, I suppose this could have waited till after the approval. But I just wanted to comment that one of the items that we have that we've received is regarding Build It Right the first time. Green Building requesting the province to look at improved building codes and empower municipalities to enact similar adjustments. And I will be bringing a notice of motion to that effect at our next council meeting. So I'm hopeful that council will support that at that time.
Thank you. So got mover and seconder, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. So the next item is bylaws, and ask the CEO to read the recommendation, please.
That bylaws number 2022-23 and 2022-24 be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed in open council.
Thank you. And that is.
So we have bylaw 14.1, bylaw number 2022-23 to rescind bylaw number 2018-26. And 14.2 bylaw number 2022-24 to appoint a clerk.
Okay, I have a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Gerber, seconded by Councillor Gordick. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And I'm going to ask the CEO to say a few words regarding our incoming clerk.
Thank you. And I would ask Arthur Flack to turn on his camera now. And as per the bylaws approved this evening, the township is pleased to welcome Mr. Arthur Flack to the role of Elections Administrator and Municipal Clerk. In addition to overseeing the upcoming municipal election, Arthur will perform all the legal responsibilities and statutory duties of the clerk under provincial acts and legislation. Arthur joins Wilmot after more than 20 years of experience at the City of Toronto, holding positions as Manager, Information Technology, and Manager, Elections. Arthur is here in a contract capacity and will act as the clerk until at least the October election. And he will be present as the clerk for our next council meeting on May 30th. And I'm very happy that my tenure as acting clerk was very short and more than happy to turn the reins over to you, Arthur. So with that, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Completely unprepared for this, but yes, my name is Arthur Flack, and as the CEO announced, the bulk of my work in municipal administration has been at the City of Toronto, but I'm very happy to be here in the Township of Wilmot and very excited about the challenges that lay ahead of me. And thank you to all the staff today who have been very kind and very helpful in getting me oriented. Thank you.
Thank you, Arthur. We certainly appreciate you coming along, and the big difference between Toronto and Wilmot, you won't need as many fingers to count things up. So, all right. So thank you and welcome. We
Thank you.
certainly appreciate you coming on board.
Thank you.
So there are no notice of motion. So next items are the announcements. And I will start off with my quarterly update statement to council. Over the past quarter, I've attended land acknowledgement training. This was a closed training session at the region, respecting the relationships I have with local Indigenous community. I will not be sharing the details of this session other than to say it was a valuable learning opportunity. I've also attended the State of the Region. One of the guest speakers at this event included Clarence Cassidy of Crow Shield Lodge. Clarence is from the Waterloo region and is well known for his engagement with the community as an Indigenous community educator. His primary focus on working with the spirit within. He is a helper, visionary, and author. In hearing Clarence and speaking with other members of the Indigenous community, including several members of my own family, I have gained a deeper understanding of our complex history as a nation and understand we must continue to listen and learn from one another. In addition to listening and learning from members of the Indigenous community, I've been continuing with educational and learning sessions from a number of online resources, including our website. Last month, along with regional leaders, I attended a learning and growth session. This session focused primarily on the white supremacy to help advance anti-racism and equity efforts across the region. We must continue to listen, learn, act, and corroborate on community input. While I have learned a great deal over this past quarter, I recognize that my learning and all of our learning must still continue in order to move forward together as a community. Next month is National Indigenous History Month. Let's take the time to recognize the rich history, heritage, and diversity of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people across Canada. Councillor Hallman.
And not for a moment will I stop advocating for the Indigenous people to find their loved ones and advocate for policy and legislation change to protect them. It was something that will stay on my mind now and moving forward into June as well as we head into Indigenous History Month. On May 29th, I wanted to thank Council's support for the bike rally. Well, the Community Safety and Crime Prevention Committee was passed by Council 3 years ago, and we're just getting underway now. It is really exciting that we have these opportunities to bring the community together, and this is a really exciting one as it focuses on youth. And as many parents have shared with us, they are finding their kids have been locked up for 2 years with the pandemic and staying close to home and close to the nest. And as kids are getting vaccinated as well and finding they're, going back to the parks, some of them have reached from kindergarten to grade 2 without having any formal understanding of navigating sidewalks and the rules of the road. So thank you so much for council support to make sure that kids have an opportunity to navigate these rules, and the support of Waterloo Regional Police will be coming as well. So it'll be a good day on May 29th from 1 to 4 p.m. And I hope members of council can also come out and say hi to the community.
Thank you. Councillor Gordick.
Thank you through the mayor. Just wanted to say a big thank you to the community as well as to Meredith and staff at Mimi's Cafe for running one of our Terry Fox fundraisers. It was called Coffee for Terry, and it was last Friday and Saturday. And with the generosity of the residents and or probably some of the film crew, we were able to raise almost $400 for the Terry Fox Foundation. So big thank you to our community and of course Mimi's Cafe for their continued support. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fenning.
Well, the mayor, mentioned Clarence Kakaji earlier, I would like to invite everybody to attend a fundraiser for Crow Shield Lodge. It'll be held at the Victoria Park Pavilion in Kitchener on Friday, May 27th at 7 p.m. And I'll just read the information about the event. Crow Shield Lodge has been responding to a deep need in our community for healing, understanding, connection, and community. And it has become increasingly apparent over the past year that there is a yearning to continue the conversations, healing, and gathering. Our mandate to provide opportunities for conversation, education, and healing to all nations on the land has proven to be what is needed right now. And we want to continue to provide ample opportunities for all nations. Our teaching lodge represents a space where all nations can come together to learn on the land in a good way. Each of the four sacred directions are represented in the lodge with the center fire connecting them. Our Feed the Fire fundraiser will bring us together to enjoy music, laughter, and connection. Fire calls us in to gather and warm ourselves in community. The fire in our hearts pushes us to change, reach out, and commune. We want you to help us keep these fires going. Join us for this evening of community, connection, silent auction, and entertainment in support of the work of Crow Shield Lodge. Tickets are $15 per person, and a donation option is also available if you can't make it in person. Auction items will need to be paid for before the end of the event. And there's all of the rest of the details, but the tickets are available through Eventbrite. The information is also posted on Facebook, and I encourage all of you to take a look and come out and join. I will be there, and hope to see many other faces from our community there as well.
Thank you. Okay, second announcement this evening is regarding the Citizen of the Year Award. As noted in previous meetings, we are so excited to be bringing back the New Hamburg Fall Fair in September. And with that, we are asking the community to put their nominations in this year for the Citizen of the Year Awards. This year, there are 5 main categories: athletics, community service, culture, senior, and youth. These awards are given to individuals who have demonstrated all-around community involvement, recognizing local residents who build communities and show that what can be achieved with passion and determination. For those who prefer a paper copy, the nomination package will also be available for pickup at the administration complex and the WRC front counters. For more information, please visit our social media pages or visit wilmot.ca/citizen of the year. So we look forward to receiving nominations because we should have lots of them, because we have a large number of fantastic volunteers in this community who represent us and who help us to make this community work as well as it does, and to be such a great place for people to live. So look forward to receiving those. Thank you. So since business arising from closed session, since council did not meet in closed session, there is no business. The confirmatory bylaw, I ask the CAO to read the recommendation, please.
That bylaw number 2022-25 be read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed in open council.
That is moved by Councillor Hallman, Councillor Fenning. All in favor? Okay, and finally, the most difficult recommendation, ask the CAO to read the recommendation for adjournment.
That we do now adjourn to meet again at the call of the mayor.
Mover and seconder. Councillor Gordon, Councillor Hall, or Fenning, sorry. All in favor? That is carried. We are finished, and thank you everyone who attended and enjoyed our meeting tonight. Thank you.